If you play Baldur's Gate 3, you know that when Minthara says,
In MENZOBERRANZAN,
you're about to hear the most traumatizing phrase you've ever heard.
You're about to say something awful, aren't you?
She just says the most horrible things so casually. I'm like, where did you grow up and who can I speak to about this? MENZOBERRANZAN is home to a lot of notable drow. A lot of people hail from the city, so something's going on, okay? Today we're gonna dive deep into the juicy lore behind MENZOBERRANZAN and what it is that makes this drow city so significant in D&D and Forgotten Realms history. Before we jump in, this video is sponsored by Start Playing. If you're like me and you played Baldur's Gate 3 and just can't get enough of D&D and Forgotten Realms, we're in the same boat. Start Playing is the perfect place to find a D&D group. You can actually search for specific campaigns that you want, so you can literally find a campaign set in MENZOBERRANZAN. Scheduling is also super hard, so this completely takes that out of the equation. I've always been kind of scared too of like finding a random GM, and I love that Start Playing has GM profiles set up. You can search for different GMs and you can read the reviews of their previous players. It is so time consuming to run a campaign, and I love that Start Playing has given a lot of game masters this opportunity to be compensated for their hard work that gets put into these games. One of my favorite things is that you can also find campaigns that are open to complete beginners. If you've never played D&D before, that is not a problem. Use the link in my description to check out their website and start playing. Let's get ourselves situated. If you head north of Waterdeep, you'll come across Mithril Hall. Once in this bustling dwarven stronghold, you can access tunnels that lead directly to MENZOBERRANZAN. Now, the city lies approximately 3 miles beneath the surface, but takes about a week through tunnel travel to actually get to this city in the Underdark. There is another access point in Moonwood, a forest in the Glimmerwood that actually has a temple dedicated to 𝕖𝖆, the good aligned drow goddess. If you haven't watched my video on her yet, you should. It's quite significant to the drow lore. MENZOBERRANZAN lies within a huge arrowhead-shaped cavern, which actually used to house a huge giant spider and was known by the dwarves as 𝕵𝖚𝖎𝖘, meaning basically the Great Pillar Cavern. Okay, so we're here. So we made it into the cavern. What are we looking at? MENZOBERRANZAN is described as dimly and weirdly lit by phosphorescent fungi, magical fields, and deliberately placed fairy fires. Almost every inch of the city is carved from calcite, and it's perpetually veiled in an ominous yet painterly haze of cool greens, blues, and purples. All of these colors being the fairy fire. The streets of MENZOBERRANZAN are made of solid, smooth rock. There are literally no paving stones whatsoever. You will not find any loose rocks because it is so controlled that they don't want anybody finding makeshift weapons and like, throwing a rock. It's that high maintenance. The HOA is like really strict. Nothing is allowed to grow wildly. Everything is clipped, shaped, and trained into place. Generally, the atmosphere down here is what you would expect of a cave, right? Damp, cool. The smell is like a spice strong, but not like unpleasant smell of fungi. Very musky, but like kind of satisfying, God, I would love an Underdark candle. Candle makers, hit me up. I would love the scent of MENZOBERRANZAN in my office. Besides all the like murder and stuff that we'll get into. The city has tons of long-term silence spells placed on the different stalactites in the cavern. You kind of hear like typical cavern noises with the occasional drow music playing or screams of someone being tortured. Sounds like a pretty nice place, right? It's got ambient lighting, they've got their like 𝕮𝖆𝖈 LED set up, but why is it so infamous? Why is it so messed up? Why does Minthara keep traumatizing me with her upbringing? Drow society in general is pretty messy, but MENZOBERRANZAN is kind of like the concentration of it, right? All of this can be attributed to one thing, basically, the worship of Lolth. She feels her absolute best when people are fighting with each other in her name. It thrives off of the chaos sown in the communities of drow. Lolth worship in general completely dominates life in MENZOBERRANZAN. The dream, the goal that Lolth-sworn drow here are like to become Lolth's revered or die trying. Those are your two options. Lolth is big about things following in her image. Because of this, drow society is toxically matriarchal. Kind of like the opposite problem of humanity. Priestesses of Lolth speak for her and enforce her will in society. If you haven't watched my video on Lolth yet, you should. We dive deep into her family trauma. A lot to unpack there. But yeah, maybe because of her own history, she encourages this cycle of betrayal and mistrust. A cycle that just keeps the drow spinning on like this really dark, evil hamster wheel, which just leads to an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Not knowledge. power. That's what it is. Power. And just has them spending their lives trying to appease her. These bitter, violent, and honestly Bravo-worthy relationships between the drow noble houses all operate under the guise of making the drow stronger, sharper, more wise in the eyes of law. When in reality, the houses and MENZOBERRANZAN society are kind of just surviving and doing whatever they can to stay alive, because it's either do that or die. The city of MENZOBERRANZAN is governed by the Way of Loth. Loth is like Lolth's colloquial local name. The Way of Loth is what guides MENZOBERRANZAN society. And this societal structure dates all the way back to MENZOBERRANZAN's founding. We're in about like the late 1700s DR. So this would have taken place like 5,000 years prior, after years, decades literally, of infighting. MENZOBERRAH the Kinless was basically claimed as like Ulf's chosen. And MENZOBERRAH led 7 drow families from Great Barrendin up into the Underdark, where MENZOBERRANZAN would later be founded. As she was escorting these refugees through the caverns, she got into a little tussle with a dwarf. They were like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. It's after hours. We're closed. And, you know, they duked it out. They fought. Who won? None other than MENZOBERRAH the Kinless. I mean, with a name like that, how could you not win? They did end up losing like half the drow that were traveling, though. The very last dwarf of Clan Blackaxe, Dorn Blackaxe, as he fell and was slain, he cursed this group of drow and wished upon them the doom of many eyes. Ooh, what can that mean? It's a beholder. So the group of drow, they kept traveling and, you know, going deeper and deeper into the caves, into the Underdark, traveling north. Finally, they came across this big cavern. The cavern was full of like a swarm of spiders and the beholder. The beholder's name was Many Eyes, a legendary beholder. I want to pretend that his name is Manny though. Like, he sounds, look, doesn't he look like a Manny? Come on. After a long, arduous battle, who other than MENZOBERRAH laid the final blow? After the tussle was over, a 𝕖𝖗𝖏, one of like Lolth's demon children people, she appeared in front of them proclaiming, "This is your new home, MENZOBERRANZAN," to, you know, provide recognition and give a little gold star to MENZOBERRAH the Kinless. For the lore nerds out there, the 7 families were Ciaooooo, Gala, Baenre, Mascalir, Nasadra, Tucheth, and Usrala. Yep, that's right, you heard it. Baenre, baby. Do not mess with the Baenre. Because of that say, MENZOBERRANZAN was born. But guess what? The cycle begins. What they were trying to escape from, you know, that infighting, the like back and forth, the same exact thing happened in the early days of MENZOBERRANZAN. They can't escape from it. It's like the Lolth-sworn drow curse to just be fighting with each other constantly. This led to a battle between the Nasadra and 𝕲𝖆𝖈. One of the cavern walls collapsed, and it ended up killing MENZOBERRAH the Kinless. Yeah, her. House Nasadra was then attacked by House Ciaooooo, and House Baenre partnered up with them to get rid of House Nasadra and like exile them from the cavern. Lolth actually just like told them like, hey, like go start another city, which would become Chet'Nassad, another notable drow city. So she was like, yeah, like I know you fought over here, but like just move, you know, change your name a little bit and you'll be fine. Now that they were left in this sticky situation, they're like, okay, we need to like rebuild now. Who stepped up? But House Baenre. They basically decided to come up with a compromise of sorts with the surviving House Ciaooooo and Nasadran. When this happened, Lolth took notice and she was like, hold on, what's going on? She shows up. What comes to this appearance is basically this point in time, the drow are laying down the rules for their society in MENZOBERRANZAN, which is called the Way of Loth. These would become the basic laws that MENZOBERRANZAN and the newly founded Chet'Nassad, another drow city, would follow to the letter in order to stay within Lolth's good graces and stay alive, basically. House Baenre ends up staying in power for centuries because of their iron-hard dedication to the Way of Loth. Those last elders of House Ciaooooo decided to open up the Academy, which were 3 schools that would train drow in the way of Loth worship. It's kind of like Hogwarts, but not really. Basically, they take your gender that you were assigned at birth, and they're like, okay, if you're a male, you'll either be a wizard or a fighter. And if you're a female of a noble house, boom, straight to the top. Cleric of Loth. Either way, though, you're going to get abused, gaslit, and probably live a miserable life. But it's in the name of Loth, okay? Like, you'll be fine. So, now that we have that established, MENZOBERRANZAN follows this Way of Loth, this doctrine that requires everyone to constantly be in this religious, economic, and sociological struggle, which basically turns MENZOBERRANZAN into like an extreme fascist religious version of Beverly Hills. In MENZOBERRANZAN, station means everything, and your house's social status is what determines your life. Of these noble houses, there's a top 8, like a MySpace profile. Top being, of course, House Baenre, which basically founded the city. They're the most prestigious, they're the baddest. Their power cannot be logically denied. They know exactly who they are, which puts so much more context into why Minthara is the way she is. MENZOBERRANZAN royalty. All noble houses in MENZOBERRANZAN have soldiers and slaves, but Baenre has the largest. The mother matron and the mage of MENZOBERRANZAN also hail from House Baenre. From birth, males are abused and trained to be subservient. They're not even allowed to like look the women in the eye or like gaze upon a spider. God forbid they gaze upon a spider. It's over. It's over for them. The noble male drow tend to become wizards or fighters at the academy. They're known to be expendable, which is also why Minthara treats 𝕮𝖆𝖈 so badly. That whole third son like comment that she makes.
In MENZOBERRANZAN, after a house has 2 sons, every subsequent male-born child is slaughtered at birth, as it is useless, even for breeding. You have the aura of a 3rd child about you.
It's like, yeah, that is quite the insult. And he's a wizard, like, pack it up. She devoured him with it, I'm sorry. Non-noble drow tend to become soldiers or servants. The drow noble houses pretty much all own slaves. Slaves in MENZOBERRANZAN tend to be goblins, grimoires, like these big old monstrous humanoid aberrations, orcs, bugbears, etc. And the occasional like human or tiefling. As for the leadership and who governed MENZOBERRANZAN, it was all about the matron mothers. Of course, it's always been House Baenre to be the ruler of this Council of 8. There were, of course, some exceptions to the matriarchal rule, so a few male drow did hold some power, like 𝕵𝖚 Baenre, the archmage of the city, and 𝕵𝖎𝖗𝖈, who was a leader of a mercenary band, Underdark, which House Baenre often utilized. Typically in relation to Baenre, to have power as a male, so if you're not in cahoots with Mother Matron Baenre, it's kind of knowing more about MENZOBERRANZAN as part of Forgotten Realms civilization helps us understand these characters like Minthara, Drizzt Do'Urden a lot more. I know some people in their first playthrough, when coming across Minthara, you just see her as evil, but the world and characters, at least in great stories like this, are not so black and white. There's multitude to them, and an example of how evil in a character can be a product of their environment. It's not something innate within them. I know in D&D, races like the drow or the 𝕮𝖆𝖈𝖐 are painted as evil, bloodthirsty races, but it is so much more complex than that, as anything in life is. And I love MENZOBERRANZAN and its lore because even though it's got like giant spiders and never-ending darkness, it is very close to our reality in the human world. The real world problem that I see reflected in MENZOBERRANZAN are like authoritarianism, fear-based control, religion as a weapon of oppression. There really is a lot to unpack there. In MENZOBERRANZAN, power is enforced through fear, violence, religious control, which kind of parallels human history. Totalitarian states that punish any sort of different thinking, not worshiping the god at hand with exile or death. House Baenre rules through surveillance, intimidation, the whole founding family, royalty concept. I think the scariest thing about MENZOBERRANZAN is that it reflects human history of slavery, oppression, violence, torture, control, intimidation, all of that neatly packaged with one easy villain to blame. MENZOBERRANZAN is not just fantasy. It's a society built on fear, manipulation, and ritualized cruelty. And we have versions of that in real history. A lot of our societies and systems are a direct result of those events. Yes, it's exaggerated. Yes, there's magic, but it's not that far from reality. And maybe that's the point. The coolest thing about Dungeons & Dragons is that we get to continually rewrite this story. Whether you're romancing Minthara or you're playing a drow in your D&D campaign, you have the power of choice, the power to imagine something better. And that's the heart of D&D and storytelling. So use your magic, your story to make the world a little bit better than you found it.